Hello and welcome back to Authentically Shawna. I'm your host, Dr. Shawna Berk. This is episode number 4, and I wanted to take this episode to talk about Matrix Repatterning as a patient. So I'm currently in Markham, which is really near to Toronto in Canada, and am a patient currently, and I am working with the founder of the technique, Dr. George Roth. And so I wanted to talk about my experience as a patient and what has shifted for me. So if you've been listening and you're like, this girl is in Toronto a lot. Well, I just happened to be up here for 10 days and I took the opportunity because I have the time to get treated and record this podcast. I'm staying by myself. And so I figured it would be a fantastic time to get my first 7 episodes under my belt. So if you're curious as to why I'm like, sounds like I'm probably spending weeks on end in Toronto, it's not, it's 10 days. So I wanted to say, if you missed last, I interview Oliver Hartan, who is a certified Matrix Repatterning practitioner, as well as the lead instructor. I think he is one of the most clear instructors I've ever had. So if you want to hear more about the technique and his take on it, please go back and listen. I can't wait to have him again on the podcast. And if you have been a patient and something hasn't gone well for you, that this episode is I'm going to say beacon of hope, because I've been there for a lot of time. And I want to share a little bit about what has been going on for the past few days in my world. So if you go back to episode 2, I talk about, I'm going to say that's the abridged version of what's been going on in my life the past 7 years and my health journey. And I wanted to go back in time a few months. So I heard about Matrix Repatterning from a friend of mine, Shari, who's an acupuncturist who will also be a guest on the podcast. I can't wait for you all to meet her. She from originally the Toronto area and said, Shawna, I think this technique, Matrix Repatterning, would be amazing for you to learn. I feel like it's right up your alley in terms of your ethos, and I think you'll just really enjoy his perspective and how to help people. And I did some research and they have a foundations course that they were offering online, and was like, yeah, I feel like this is something I can really sink my teeth into. Big asterisk sign. It's a manual therapy technique, and my body can't tolerate, or at that point, I'm going to say past tense. And I'm thinking, my brain's thinking in past tense, like, I can't tolerate doing manual therapy. How do I think I'm going to learn this technique? And I just felt that this is maybe the next step for me in terms of my own healing journey. And well, if other people can have bone remodeling and can heal on a bone level, like, why can't I? And so I connected up with a practitioner in my area. I'm not going to say who. I started working with her in October 2023, and it didn't go well. I guess that's like the polite way to say it. I actually think it made my symptoms worse. And even Dr. Roth has said to me, Shawna, you're a very complex patient. And I think she just missed it. And I also really firmly believe that not every person is your person. And I think what was really challenging for me is I think I knew kind of early on that it was a miss. And seeing her, because it was like, well, we'll try this other thing. And then we'll try this other thing. And it was like, and like, well, you're getting treated, I'll teach you how. So when you take the course, you'll have a leg up. And yeah, I don't think there was ill intent that was meant, but I think instead of her as a practitioner saying like, hey, this isn't working, I need to either regroup or talk to somebody else. Like, she just kept trying these things. And I think I was getting worse because it wasn't right. It was just stirring up all these symptoms. And I went into a total neck spasm. And you can never control or predict what's going to happen in someone's body, fortunately or unfortunately, as a practitioner. So I understand that from that end. But I felt like my symptoms were getting exacerbated instead of better. Yeah, it was really difficult for me to say, like, I don't think I should see you anymore. It was just very confusing in my brain because I had someone who's telling me, oh, if I just try this other thing, like, I think this will help. And I think instead of helping me be a bigger, more vibrant version of myself, it was like, well, you have hypermobility, which means your joints are going to always swell. And so you need to get these special leggings, which are going to help you with swelling for the rest of your life. You have Ehlers-Danlos like symptoms, and Ehlers-Danlos is a hypermobility of the joints. And so we're going to do like some electrical current while we're doing it to help with those. And it was like imposing limiting beliefs onto my system. And again, I don't think that was intentional. I think it was meant out of good. It wasn't right. So I felt really disheartened for a lot of reasons. One, because I knew it wasn't working, but two, it was like I started seeing her once a week in October until March because I knew that my body at that point still wasn't able to tolerate doing manual therapy. And I knew that I was going to do a course that was manual therapy. And like I was giving it my all to be able to do this course. And I felt like I had failed, that I had done what I thought was going to be the next right thing, and it wasn't. And it was so disheartening because I had spent so much energy in terms of money and time doing this thing that wound up not being fruitful. And, I had discussed with her that I should see Dr. While I was up there. She's like, I think you should see him. I think he might have some good perspective. And so I went to see him. So it was a Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday course in March of 2024. And I saw him and explained how this impact injury had happened, getting T-boned. And I've seen a lot of practitioners, and this is not to blame or say that anyone isn't great, but he was the first person who really understood how the physical forces of that injury impacted my body. And I think one of the difficult parts about injury that I don't think many people are great at explaining, that a lot of these patterns, these injury patterns that are showing up, are old patterns. And so, one of his theories, which I really understand, and I think there's a lot of truth in it, is we've all had injury in our life. We've all had falls. We've all banged into things. Like we live in a world with gravity, and we all learned how to walk. And so we've all had injury. Like you don't get to be on this planet without getting injury, and we kind of just brush it off. And for me, my body was able to tolerate my injury patterns until the car accident that I had in 2017. And all of these patterns that I think my body was able to accommodate and compensate for, I was no longer able to. And so I have this interesting dilemma, right, where I have these pieces to a puzzle in one body that are really difficult to put together. And he was the first person who was able to look at all of these different symptoms that I was having. And I know we generally say like symptoms don't necessarily mean what those pain points are, but I think in this case, it was like he was able to take all of these things that are seemingly random. My left ankle really hurts. My right hip really hurts. My thoracic spine is super painful. My vision in my left eye is diminished. I had to get braces because my jaw shifted to my left. My periods have become intolerable. And these are some of, I will say, like my main complaints. And if you listen to them, you're like, how are any of these things connected? And we had a really long discussion about how the car hit me, what I was doing. For me, that was really, really cathartic because he was able to basically make this puzzle piece, jigsaw puzzle that seemed like all these puzzle pieces didn't fit together, and really help put them together. And he palpated my spine and was the person, if you go back in episode 2, who had said, Shawna, I think you have a scoliosis from impact injury. And I was just like, come again? I just didn't know that my spine wasn't in normal spinal curvatures. Like I had no idea and was really blown away by this discovery. And I got treated by him twice while I was here in March. And I would say like the really big improvement that I had was my left ankle. I've tried everything to help this left ankle feel better. I've thrown mobility, massage, stretching, and no matter what I did, it just wasn't getting any better. And it hurt to walk, it hurt to not walk. It hurt to do a king phrase, it hurt to not like it just I was like, I don't know how to physically move because my ankle hurts. Like, how do I help my body heal? Because movement is healing, but movement hurts. And I feel like I was in this again, like spiral of like, how do I move when it hurts? Like, do I move through the pain? Do I not move through the pain? Like this whole um cycle that I was going through. And that was a really big improvement. And I had said to him, prior to 2017, I had a remarkable periods. I would have it, no pain, no symptoms. Maybe I was a little tired. I needed to take a nap, but like really easy breezy. Like I went on tour with Young Americans. Like I don't remember ever being like, oh, like I don't feel good enough to go class and to do labs. Like I was a science major. You go to class literally all day. You do labs for 4 hours. You're standing. Like I have zero recollection of being like, man, I'm on my period. Like today's going to be tough. Like I have no recollection of that. And then 2017, it's like everything changes. And I was on my period when I was in the initial accident. And then like 10 days later, I had my period. And I feel like there's just been something that's been really off since then. And one of the things that if you go back and listen to Oliver's episode is we talk about what happens in injury, and our organs are these fluid filled sacs essentially. And when you're in an accident, these fluid filled sacs can expand. And so I think for me, my uterus had gotten overexpanded. And it was telling me, it was giving me signals, right? I think something that's the hard part is like your body is trying to tell you, hey, something's not right. And you're like, yeah, something's not right, and it's so sometimes difficult to tease out why that is happening. And I feel like my periods have gotten better, but even prior to seeing Dr. Roth, because I was at a point where my periods were so painful that I was like in a fetal position on the couch in so much pain that it was hard for me to like stand up and walk to a toilet. Like I was spending 12 hours in a ball and was like, what, like, I don't know how to function. Like, how do I have a job? How do I, like, do I call out sick for my period? Like all of these like ruminating thoughts of how do I be a human with periods that are this uh excruciating. And so it had gotten a lot better. I still didn't feel great, but I was like, man, I'm really hoping my period comes out on the weekend. And I've had a lot of ruminating thoughts about that and really having a lot of fear around my period because I just don't feel great. And I mentally also felt just foggy, hazy, I guess would be a way to say it, like just not sharp. And so I come to this course, and of course, day 2, which is the longest day of the course in March, I'm on my period. And I'm like, okay, I'm here and really want to be present, and I really don't feel well. And, I would say a really big blessing of getting to take courses with other practitioners who are really seasoned in their fields is they will help you. And I just have to say thank you, Wade, who is my we'll say lab partner during the course in March, chiropractor who's been practicing for 42 years, super lovely. And he was like, let me adjust your pelvis. Let's see if we can get you in alignment. And so that really helped with the discomfort that I was having. But I just remember being in the course day 2 and looking at our instructors, Oliver and Natalie, and being like, I'm so sorry that I'm not mentally sharp as I want to be. Like I so badly want to be sharp and clear and the best version of myself, and I'm just not. And there was like a big level of guilt that comes with that, of being like, I feel badly that I can't be the best version of myself, the best student. I know you're looking at me and I'm looking at you being like, help, this is really hard. Because it's difficult to learn a technique any day of the week, especially for me on day 1 of my period. Day 3 comes around and, we'd been talking about technique, and day 3 was kind of the day where we practiced more hands-on skills. And I remember my back really aching. And I was just so frustrated because I had felt so, I don't even know the word, just like exasperated with myself that like I want to be here and I want to be present and I want to do this technique. And yet I'm feeling really physically limited. And again, like Wade, he will be on the podcast as well. I had this conversation with him in the hall, and he's like, are you willing to let go of being in pain? And I just started like burst into tears. And yes, so well. And I was just like, I feel like I'm trying so hard to do that, and I'm not. And like, that is even more frustrating when you're like trying so hard to do something and you're still not doing it. And like looking at myself being like, I want to heal, and I so badly want to be experiencing my body in such a different way. And that's not my current reality. I know a lot of this is mental, but I really do feel like a lot of this is physical, and I'm just not sure how to get myself to the next level. So I walk back in the room, and of course, like Dr. Roth and Oliver in there, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "Oh, are you sad the course is over?" And I'm like, "No, like I'm okay. I'm like really frustrated with my body that I'm not in the place that I want it to be." And like that is such a complicated emotion, I think, to convey. And again, like you hear me cry. Oh, I guess maybe I misspoke. Episode 4 is the episode with Oliver. Episode 3 is me talking about Mickey. And I really did not like crying in front of people. And I was like, so now these 2 people whose opinions I really respect and I really respect their work, like they're watching me like sob. Anyways, okay, so I know I'm going to go work with Dr. Roth again. Like I know that he has the skill set and the tools and the know-how to help me get to the next place that I want to be. Okay, how do I help my body so that when I go work with him again in July, which is where I am right now, how do I help myself so that when I get here, ready to heal? Because I know I'm leaving here and I think that I'm ready to heal, but clearly other people are seeing that I'm not. And that was really difficult. And one of the other uh, people who came to help had come up to me and again, really lovingly had said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like, you seem like you're really overwhelmed. Like, your nervous system is really overwhelmed. Like, I think you should check out this other technique to help with your nervous system because I just feel like your nervous system is in a lot of fight or flight. And yeah, I think that would help if you really worked on it." And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like I've done so much work and like, I feel like I'm holding it together so well, and apparently I'm not. Like, I think I'm doing so awesome that nobody can tell how badly I'm struggling, and clearly this disguise that I think I'm, like, pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, like, is not disguising. Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go home and, like, resort." And I come home, and I get an X-ray done, and I, like, see for myself, like, if you go back to episode 2, I talk about that. But I see, okay, this is what Dr. Roth is seeing. Okay, now how do I help my body while I'm home for the next few months? How do I help myself get to the next layer so that I'm ready to feel better? And so I started seeing a chiropractor near me, Dr. Bergman, who I think is also exceptional at what he does. One of the reasons why I really started working with him was because he looked at my spine and wasn't afraid. Like, I think that's a really big deal to be able to look at someone and be like, yes, I have helped people who've looked like you, and I have helped them have full recovery. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that you will make a full recovery. And I'm like, okay, yes, I'm in. So I started working with him and his team. I kept working. Again, if you've like seen my Instagram, I have been working with Dr. Laurel at the Institute, who's a naturopath, and so working on my digestive system. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just try to help my body in as many ways that I can heal, so that again, my body is like really able to accept this next really deep layer of healing. And then I spoke with a friend of mine, Milena, who I'm sure I'll have her on the podcast as well. We started doing coaching, and I really respect her opinion in this area for a lot of reasons. But one of them is because she also healed her spine from a car accident. And I'll talk about this in another episode, but really the mental aspect behind that and your energy. And so those are the things that I have been doing at home up until this point. And I was like, I need to see Dr. Ross as much as I can while I'm up there. And he works 3 days a week. So how do I like plan this so I can see him the most and really maximize my time? So I've done a lot of work at home. I'm also working 2 jobs. So, you know, sometimes I'm working 10, 12-hour days because getting treatment is not inexpensive. And also, like, I don't make a ton of money at the moment. And so it's this, I feel like I'm also in this place of, I know that I need care. And I'm really blessed that I can live at home with my parents and that I can afford to put money into my health, which ultimately is how I like get to exist in the world. And but I think like the dichotomy right now is that like I just don't make anywhere like I will work more than a day for like an hour treatment. And that is really difficult. And so I understand why people sometimes look at the cost of healing and are like, come again. Um Again, that's like a whole other topic. And so I just started saving up because I know I really need to see Dr. Roth. And so I plan my trip. I fly in on a Monday, and this is last week. So I saw him Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have the course Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I'm going to say serendipitously or not, and not, that's not serendipitously, but just very, I'm going to say beautifully. He normally does not work on Mondays, but happens to not be working this Thursday. So I could see him Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week and fly home Wednesday evening. So I get to see him 6 times while I'm here. And I came with the intention that my spine is going to be healed by the time I leave. That's it. Like, I don't have, like, there is not a shadow of a doubt in my mind. Like, I know that I'm seeing the person who's going to get me to that place and beyond. Like, I'm trying not to put any limitations on that, but I know that I'm seeing the person who has the capacity to help me get there. And I wrote him an email prior to getting here saying, okay, these are the things I've been working on. This is what I'd love to focus on. Here's all my scans. Here's all my x-rays. Like, let's go. And we go to visit. I go see him last Tuesday, and we spent a good chunk of time just looking at my x-rays and him saying, yes, this is what I was feeling. Yes. Okay. Now we can see that this is what we need to be working on. These are all the symptoms. Okay. Let's see how all of these things are playing together. Let's see how all of this interacts. And I just so appreciate his level of thoroughness and his ability to sit and comprehend all of this information. And I said it on the last episode, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's worth repeating. I think what I really appreciate about him as a clinician is that he's so practiced in this technique, right? He invented it. He told me he's been practicing this technique for 35 years, and yet he will still take a minute to think through something. Like, he will close his eyes. I can tell he's visualizing. He'll pause, he'll write something down, and then he'll tell you. I'm going to say so rare that people in probably all fields will say, like, give me just a second. I want to make sure that I'm clear before I make my next move. And that has been such a huge lesson and gift for me in working with him these past few days. And I think it was really amazing that I had sessions with him, each an hour and a half. And then we had the course, which was great because I could then see really clearly what was going on in my own body. And yeah, this next part is like, oh my gosh. So Friday, day 1 of the course, and a lot of it is talking and theorizing, and we aren't doing a ton of skill practicing. I mean, we're doing a little bit of skills, not a ton. We're doing a lot of talking and yeah, reminding, and I feel really good. I feel really mentally clear. Like, I'm feeling even better. I feel like my body feels lighter. which I know probably sounds like really woo-woo, but I think our brains are really good at getting rid of a lot of extra noise because it just can't tolerate it. So my body had felt so compressed, but that had become my normal. So I forgot what it feels like to not be so compressed, which probably sounds really crazy. I think because of all the compensatory habits and my structure, my physical structure, I just was in a very compressed, condensed state. And I felt just so light. And yeah, just this sort of euphoria of, oh my gosh, like this is what it feels like to just be in a body that doesn't hurt. Which it probably sounds like I'm doing drugs. I'm not. And so Saturday rolls around and this is the day when we're gonna start practicing being clinicians. We're gonna actually take what we've learned and we're kind of on our own to this as a treatment. And we come in and we have like little pep talk before we get going. And I start my period. And I'm like, no, like I'm so nervous. And I walk in and of course, like tell Oliver, I'm like, I just started my period. I'm gonna do the best that I can. I'm gonna do this to the maximum of my capacity until I can't. And that's my litmus test. Um, and I have a sacroiliac joint belt, which Dr. Budding, Mickey's husband, created. And I have that with me. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself some extra support and I'm not limit myself and I'm going to see what I can tolerate. And so I am working with another chiropractor. Lovely. I'm so glad he was my partner. Thank you, Bill. And I start going. And so one of my symptoms, I would say like my main symptom complaint of why I was unable to do manual therapy was as soon as I use my arms, and it could be like measuring range of motion, which like isn't difficult. Like as soon as I go to use my arms, my thoracic spine just like instantly hurts. And I start doing matrix repatterning, this technique, which again, I had done just a little bit in March and had tried a few times at home and just like every time I do it, my body hurts. And I do it and my body doesn't hurt, which like, it's hard to describe this level of just sheer amazement that I have been experiencing these symptoms now for what feels like forever, right? Forever as a clinician. And now I can move my arms and my body doesn't hurt. Like, and I have no pelvic floor cramping, no symptoms. Like I'm a little tired, which like, and so a part of the technique is you can sit down a little bit. So I was like sitting down, um, but I treated for 2 hours. Like that is amazing. Like before I could treat for 30 seconds before hurting, and I treated on day one of my period for 2 hours without having any thoracic spine pain. Like, oh my Lanta. This technique is a lot of isometric. So isometric is like muscular contraction, but it's non-movement. So this technique is a lot of isometric holds. And so I keep asking Oliver, like, Oliver, am I meant to be feeling this in my shoulders? Like, where is it normal for me to be feeling? Because I haven't really used my arms in 7 years. What am I meant to be feeling? Like, I don't really know what arms feel like, is essentially what I'm saying. Like, what do arms feel like when they do this? What do your arms feel like? Like, what are arms meant to feel like? And so I noticed that my neck isn't moving. My neck is pretty sore. So I don't have any thoracic spine discomfort, but my neck and my wrists are pretty sore. And so I'm like, is this normal? Like, where did you feel it when you first started? And I know that there's like some, like, I'm going to say muscle tone and conditioning that you're going to have to do this technique because, again, I don't really do isometric holds like this. And so I just keep checking it with him. I'm like, okay, this is good. Now I have like more feedback to give to Dr. Roth. Like, this is great. Like, okay, now I know, I feel like I'm in my groove. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. I'm so stoked. And I have lunch with Bill, which is great. It's so lovely to get to have lunch with your fellow practitioners and just kind of hear more about them and how they practice and what they do. And then it's my turn to get worked on. So Bill works on me. And he says, I also do, because these are like long holds that you're doing in matrix repatterning. They're like 1 minute, 3 minute holds. You're standing, being present, holding a position. And he's like, I also do some energy work while I'm doing it, that helps me to maintain this hold. I go through this whole cycle and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And so he does that on me when he's practicing. And if anyone's ever received energy work, a lot of times people get messages about you and about your body. And I also receive those when I'm doing energetic work, which I can't wait to like unpack more of that. I'll talk about that in future episodes. And so one of the messages that Bill gave me was one of the reasons why you're really struggling to get better is you held on and retained to all the people who've told you that you can't get any better. And it was like this like avalanche of emotion and like fear, panic, distress of oh my gosh. And I think all of that is like coming to a head because I'm talking about it, right? And I think that's a big part of why like this is really catharsis for me too, is to really process that emotion of so many people have told me like you're not going to get better. Like this is as good as it's going to get. And I think people don't mean harm by that. It's just they don't know the next thing. And I think as much as I've tried to not listen to that, like it does get to you when you've been healing for 7 years. And he was like, you're going to have to figure out how to let that go. And that was such a beautiful message for me to receive this weekend. So thank you so much, Bill, for that. It was just a really powerful reminder of how much words matter and how much what you say to someone as a practitioner matters. Just being aware and conscious of how I'm being and like, again, it's that thing of like, I really thought that was over those things. Oh, I really thought that that wasn't bothering me. It's like, okay, like there it is. And so that's really an invitation for me to letting other people's opinions go. And the other message that he gave me, he's like, I saw this picture of like, sort of like a Ferris wheel, but like a spinny thing that just keeps spinning and spinning. And I was like, yeah, I feel like that is really representative of how I felt for the past 7 years of like, I'm on this ride that I would really like to get off of, but I like, there's not really a way off of this ride. And I feel like the ride is like slowing and there is like an end in sight for me. And so, yeah, it was just so, I feel like these things generally happen, right? Where you work with the person that you're meant to be with at a retreat or a workshop. And it's like it was exactly what I needed to hear. And there was so much healing in that for me in such a different way that on top of the Matrix work. I'm so grateful for this experience of getting to work with him. And then on Saturday evening, Oliver and he stayed after, which thank you so much, Oliver. And we recorded episode number 4 and we finished the podcast and Oliver said, Shawna, you're so good at this. He's like, I can't believe you didn't write down any notes. You're really, really good at interviewing people. And I was like, oh my gosh, that means so much coming from you because I'm really hoping that this will be a big part of my life. And so lovely to receive that, I'm going to say confirmation, just affirmation from someone whose opinion I really appreciate because I think he's so clear and he's such a great speaker. So for someone who I really admire as a speaker to say that about me, I really, really appreciate. So we have our wrap up on Sunday. And again, I get to practice and I practice for an hour and I have no discomfort anywhere. So I should say like the great thing about having a chiropractic partner, thanks Bill, is he adjusted my neck. And so on Sunday I had no discomfort practicing, which like, holy Toledo. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do manual therapy. Wow. I know that I'm going to build up my tolerance and that there's a stamina that I'm going to need to build up to. But oh my gosh, like I'm going to be able to do manual therapy. Like this has been my hope, but I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. And yeah, it was just really, really beautiful that it all unfolded over the weekend. And I feel like so much has changed in these past few days. And if you're listening, you're like, wow, this person was talking so much about like pain and what she was going through. And like all of a sudden it just feels like no, things have changed. It's like, wow, yes, that's true. Cause I'm just starting to talk about it. Wow, it has been such a journey to get to here. And I'm like so excited to see what this next chapter looks like for me and how things are going to unfold when I get back to Long Beach and I go in and see Dr. Roth today. And before I go in, I've written down another list of things, like, okay, this is what I observed over the weekend. These are the things that I think that I'd like to work on. Like, this is like, so I like come in with my list and we sort of talk through what I felt the weekend and yeah, like what's our game plan for the next 3 sessions. And he says to me, would you mind recording a video of yourself about your experience in doing our course? And he's like, I just really like your energy and I think you're great at speaking. And again, coming from him, that's such a compliment because he's someone who's created a lot of content in his life and has worked with a lot of practitioners. And for me, it's just such a beautiful confirmation that I feel like I want to use my voice a lot. There are lots of people who are practitioners who are like, I just want to be a practitioner and I don't like speaking. And that is not me. Like, I'm so glad other doctors like to speak. Like, I'm going to go and treat patients, and which is beautiful. And I don't feel like that's me. And I want to continue to use my voice. And I think that's going to be a really big thing for me as I continue to grow. And yeah, it was just like so beautiful to have that confirmation from two people whose opinions again I really respect. I think they both have used their voices so well and will continue to use their voices so well as clinicians and as people. And yeah, that was just really beautiful in that way for me as well. And so today we really worked on my face and head, and I'm not sure what this was because who knows. I had a pretty big injury pattern on the left side of my skull. And by injury pattern, you can feel when bone has been like bossed or expanded. And generally it's pretty sensitive to touch. And, I've known for a while that I don't really like the left side of my head to be touched, if someone like goes to do your hair or, just like even touch left side of my head. I'm like, oh, that does not feel nice. I just avoid touching the left side of my head. Yeah, like getting your hair cut. That's what I mean, like that. Someone goes like touch left side of my head. I'm always like, okay, could we not? And like, I don't feel that at all. I'm gonna ask him to send me these pictures, but we took a before and after photo of my face, and we worked on the area around my left eyeball and my jaw, and my face looks different. So yeah, it's really interesting that we're repatterning the bones of my face. I'm really confident that by the time I leave, my vision will be different, and which it already is, and it will be more in the positive direction, and that my jaw will open smoothly. And yeah, there's not all these things. There are more layers to this, and we're getting them. And yeah, I'm just so happy, and I feel so light. And yeah, I feel like this trip has been life altering in so many ways. And I think it's really interesting because most people take like 10 days out of their life to do something, to change their perspective or to change how they're feeling. And it sounds probably crazy to be like, well, I'm just gonna go to Toronto and I'm gonna stay for 6 days uh, on the front end of a course that's 3 days. And I'm going to go, and I'm planning this trip around an hour and a half of a day. I know that probably sounds bananagrams, which I can completely understand. I just had this really deep feeling of like, this is exactly what I need to be doing. And I'm so glad I trusted that feeling of this is exactly what I need to be doing. And it's been such a beautiful week, and I'm so looking forward to the next couple of days, which I'll be wrapping up the trip. It's interesting because I'm staying alone at the moment. I mean, I'm staying in Airbnb there's other people who are here, but I don't know them. I'm in an apartment below a house, like a basement apartment, which is like also funny to me because I'm like, we don't have basements in California. But it's really made me very clear that I don't want to live alone. I know that probably is like kind of the next step that people take is like, okay, well, I've been living with my parents for a long time. Like, I'll continue to make more money and I will move out and live alone. And yeah, that's like really clear to me that I don't want to live alone. It's been great to have a lot of quiet, and I have really enjoyed this time to have a lot of silence, and I've gotten to do some really fun things. And like, I always wind up chatting with people wherever I go. But I think definitely the moral of the story is I really enjoy living with other people. And yeah, I think that's really interesting for my brain because I wasn't sure how I would feel. Because I mean, everyone likes periods of quiet. And I was like, I'm not sure if I want to live alone. Like this will be a really good experiment for me to see how I'm feeling. And I think the answer is no at this point. Yeah, which is really interesting. So yeah, I think so much has unfolded for me. And I think I'll keep unpacking a lot of this as I go home. And yeah, I'm going to wrap up this episode by saying you would like to sponsor the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is to DM me hair quiz at my Instagram, which is at Dr. Shawna Berk. That's at DrShawnaBerk. I have been using a company called Monat, Monat, to help with my scalp health and to get my curl back. I feel like my hair had just gotten really, I'm going to say floofy, and that's not really a word. I had, yeah, my curl, which I really adore the wave and the curl of my hair, which is not there. And my scalp was, yeah, I could tell my scalp health wasn't great. So I started using Monat a couple months ago, and I've seen such a big difference in my hair. And if you feel like your scalp health where you want it to be and your hair isn't where you want it to be, DM me. I will send you a hair quiz and help you figure out the products I think would best help you on the start of your journey. I think it's interesting that we do a lot of, I'm going to say, prioritizing of the skin on our face, but we tend not to not think about our scalp. So yeah, it's been a really big learning experience for me to realize, oh, I have not been paying attention to my scalp health. So if you'd like to start paying attention to your scalp health, feel like your hair is not the texture and integrity that you'd like it to be, let me know. Would love to help you out. You're listening to Authentically Shawna with Dr. Shawna Berk. The information contained in this podcast is provided for information purposes only and is not intended for the purposes of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products or techniques referred in this podcast, consult your healthcare provider. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to.